Hey guys, what is going on? So I just want to give an update regarding my bulking progress thus far. I have just hit a new all-time high weigh in the past couple mornings, which has been 266 pounds. During my last bulk, I got, somewhere between 263, 265 towards the end of that, but I was taking those, fully clothed. I don't know how much that adds, but either way, 266 is the highest I've ever weighed in the morning. And, even I've had some midday weigh-ins in the 270s. So these are like true morning weigh-ins, no food, no water, no clothing, anything like that. So it's like I'm truly 266, which is pretty crazy. Now I'm not really tracking my body fat percentage or taking like progress pics and stuff like that, because those just seem to be highly variable, in my experience, especially, the body fat percentage. Whenever I try and do that at a higher body fat, it just seems to be less and less accurate. And at the end of the day, they are just estimates. So it's a helpful tool, especially when you're leaner. But for now, I'm just not really focusing on that. And then in terms of progress pictures, again, it's kind of the same thing where it's like every picture just kind of ends up looking the same. And I just don't think it's an accurate way of really tracking progress. The way that I am choosing to track progress during this bulk is essentially just looking at my progress in the gym. And that's kind of what I want to go over. In terms of what my protocol has been in terms of bulking and how I've been achieving these numbers, because I've seen some pretty drastic increases in a lot of my lifts. I'm doing the same things in terms of like dieting. I've always just kind of shot for about 1 pound a week in body weight. Now I have been exceeding that so far this bulk. So that's probably a good indicator on why I've been gaining so fast, is because I've been gaining weight in excess of 1 pound. I found that bulking has been easier and easier as I get more experience with it. I learned which foods I can just really pound, and I've actually been doing this without the help of like fast food and stuff like that, which I know is unhealthy, but I really haven't been using it this bulk. I've been much more efficient in my bulking, and thus I've been able to gain even more than 1 pound a week, which is probably a little bit fast, but that's just been the way that it's been going. So there's that. Obviously, I've talked about me getting a coach. I've had a coach since June, so the entire time I've been bulking, I've had a coach. And then in terms of my supplement protocol, this is something I talk about on the channel a lot. I've really found that stacking Turkesterone and Ecdysterone seems to be the most potent thing for me in terms of, the best of both worlds. So this is the first bulk that I've just, from day one, have been doing what I consider to be the best stack for myself. Been doing that from the very beginning. So I feel like I have everything kind of dialed in, and that's why I've really been, making the gains that I've made. So most of the progress I would say that I'm most impressed with, that's definitely like new progress, has been, weight in my lower body, specifically muscle mass, gaining strength. So I have noticed that my quads have, grown substantially in this time period, and my squat has as well. So basically what I've been doing from a programming perspective has been really targeting the quads, doing quad biased squat variations. The main one being a heel elevated high bar squat. So that has gone up about 80 pounds at a similar RP, if not slightly easier RP than back when I started my bulk. So where I started my bulk, I probably would have said that I would have had roughly a 500 pound low bar squat. So now that I've added about 80 pounds in the same RP range, possibly even more, I think I've added, close to 80 to 100 pounds to my squat. I don't really know. We're not going for 1 rep maxes, but probably close to 100 pounds has been added to my squat, which is obviously huge. And a lot of that has just been from growing the quads. We really haven't done any squat pattern that hasn't been extremely quad biased. So I would say that's just me growing my quads, getting bigger and stronger quads. So that's great. I think that's where a lot of that weight accrual that I've had has come from. I've definitely been growing my back as well. So we've been working on building my lower back and my back in general, but specifically my lower back to be able to deadlift in the future. I've had some issues with my lower back in the past. I had an injury when I was younger. So it's a lot of mental, and then also just having kind of a weaker lower back. So working on that, building some size in the back. Now in terms of the upper body lifts, these have all been variations, so I don't have an apples to apples, like flat touch and go bench press, apples to apples, because I've not done anything like that. They've all been variations. What I will say is I've added about 30 to 40 pounds to my main bench press variation from the start of my bulk to now. That's not to say that I've added 30 to 40 pounds to my bench, because again, I obviously started the bulk after a cut, so I was probably a little bit weaker. Another thing to note is that I did a very aggressive cut, and I was, losing about, I was in like a 2,000 calorie deficit. So I lost about 25 pounds, I think, in like 7 weeks. And that was obviously very aggressive. I got the job done in terms of losing the amount of fat that I wanted, but it did come at the expense of losing some muscle, which is not usually something I have to go through when I cut. I usually retain my muscle very well, but a 2,000 calorie deficit is obviously, you're just going to see some muscle loss. So I did see a little bit of, recovery of that muscle during the first couple months. So it's not really fair to say that my starting point in terms of, what my bench press was actually accurate. But I would estimate that I've probably added, if I were to actually peak my bench press, I've probably added 10 to 20 pounds to my bench press over these 3.5 months. So that would put my bench, it's hard to say exactly. My bench press max is 415, by the way. So that would put it at, 425 to 435. I would say that is very reasonable to expect. I actually think that 425 bench could have been possible if I didn't, end up getting COVID towards the end of my bulk. That kind of threw things off a little bit. But anyway, I think my bench press, we're kind of on track to add probably, hopefully over the course of this bulk, about 40 pounds to my bench press. That's kind of the goal that I've had in the back of my mind, to hit a 455 bench. And then, I'll go through a cut, strip that fat off, and then I'll probably try and, improve my technique, learn leg drive, which is something that I'm not good at all. And then probably the following bulk that I do next year, try and hit a 500-pound bench. That might be a little bit ambitious, but I feel like the way that I've been progressing over the past couple years, that might be something that's in the cards, either, the following bulk or the bulk after that. So pretty excited to either A, get close to that, or B, just improve my bench press technique to be able to actually use a leg drive, which is something, like I said, I do not know how to do very well at all. My Larson press, which is just no leg drive at all, just keeping your legs off the floor, and my standard bench are about 10 pounds apart. And usually it's about a 10% difference. So for a 400-pound bencher, that should be about 40 pounds. So I'm potentially missing out on like 30 plus pounds of bench strength right there. So I don't know how likely it is that I actually get that number, but hopefully I can at least squeak out another 10 to 20 pounds just from learning leg drive. But again, that's something we're kind of saving for when my bench is higher, and I can hopefully, hit 500 in the next couple of years. So, other than that, every lift, every accessory, like literally nonstop progression. I have had, outside of a few, things that we've kind of swapped out or been like, okay, we're not really feeling this. Let's switch this exercise. But in terms of like my upper body my upper body accessories, my lower body accessories, like everything has just been progressing week to week, progressive overload every single week, no hiccups. And that's been probably the most encouraging thing, knowing that I'm literally like every time I step in the gym every week, I'm adding weight, I'm adding reps, and I've just been doing that consistently for months now. It really kind of shows me that I'm putting on a substantial amount of size and strength. So that's really been going well. Again, everything that I've been doing, I think has just really been dialed in from a supplementation standpoint, from a diet perspective, and from the training perspective. I feel like I'm just firing on all cylinders. And I just wanted to share that, a lot of the things that I talk about on this channel or on my other channel where I talk more about like training and diet and stuff like that, you just get better over time. You just get more efficient with your training. Obviously, I have a coach that helps me take care of that, but I'm getting better at training over time, getting better at learning, how to get better at training within a coaching program. I'm getting better at diet. Like I said, bulking, this has been the easiest bulk I've ever done, from, not having to pound food, stuff like that. So that's been very easy to do. And then, my recovery and everything like that, I'm just getting a little bit more dialed in every single day, just getting a little bit better. And I feel like this gives me a lot of optimism, like I said, for that following bulk, to continue to have these like crazy gains that should otherwise not be doable for somebody with my experience level. But, again, I think I'm just getting started. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.